Hey guys, my name is Radek. I'm your TA for Economics 1B03 and Chapter 8. So in this chapter we will be exploring how taxes reduce consumer and producer surplus. There should be no surprise. I mentioned that in the video for Chapter 7 that we would be doing this. So the book uses an interestingly slow approach to tax, and in this video we're going to take one step further from what the book does, and we will in fact be shifting the demand and supply curves because that is an application that you will be tested on. So the book wants us to emphasize that there is a wedge between the price paid by consumers and the amount received by producers. That's different, and simply we'll be looking at the deadweight loss created by taxes. So before, with our simple social welfare, oh, that was my phone. Let me turn that off. Alright, so before, with our simple social welfare model, we had two participants, producers and consumers, and the social welfare pie was divided into two. Now with taxes, we are throwing a third party into the mix, and here we will see taxes create inefficiencies in the form of the deadweight loss. So, what is a deadweight loss? A deadweight loss is a loss of economic efficiency that can occur when equilibrium for a good or service is not Pareto optimal. In other words, either people who have their marginal benefit or marginal cost are not buying the product, or people who have more marginal cost than marginal product are buying the product. Causes of deadweight loss can include monopoly pricing, which we'll explore later, externalities, taxes or subsidies, and binding ceiling prices or floors. So we've looked at externalities, we've looked at taxes, we've looked at subsidies, we've looked at price ceilings, and we looked at price floors. What do they all have in common? They are things that can shift the supply and demand curves. So the term deadweight loss may also be referred to as the excess burden of monopoly or taxation. So why don't we look at some of our old tax diagrams that we explored in Chapter 6, I believe, and we'll see how the taxation of, let's say, the producer will create a deadweight loss. So first, let us place a tax on the producer. We will see the supply curve shift left. This is the same diagram as we saw previously, but this time let us analyze it a little differently. Here we see the amount of tax that is paid by the consumer. Here we see the amount of tax that is paid by the producer. Here we see how much consumer surplus is achieved. Here we see how much producer surplus is achieved. And these are, of course, after the tax. And here's something new. This is deadweight loss created by the tax. We see that before, consumer surplus and producer surplus were a lot bigger. Now with the tax placing a wedge or a difference between what the producer receives and what the consumer pays, the two rectangles are what the government receives in the form of tax. And these two red triangles are what is lost in efficiency or overall surplus. So we also observe the quantity sold of the goods drops, therefore potential gains by the buyer and seller are lost. So now, one of the things that I do have to mention is when we're looking at this diagram, both the supply and demand curves are equally elastic or inelastic. They have equal elasticities. So to summarize what happens when we don't have equal elasticities, here we go. When we have an inelastic supply, we have small losses, and the majority of the loss is on the producer's part. When we have inelastic demand, we have small losses, and the majority of the loss is on the consumer's part. When we have elastic supply, we have large losses, and majority is on the consumer's part. When we have elastic demand, we have large losses, and the majority is on the producer's part. One last thing that I would like to note, I keep saying large losses and small losses. These losses that I'm referring to are losses in surplus, or efficiency in the market. That is what I mean by large or small losses. So this was an extremely short review. It was an easy concept, fairly easy, compared to the things to come. So if anybody is still having problems with deadweight loss, I suggest seeing your TA, make an appointment with your TA. By the time you see this video, it may not be me. So that was chapter 8. My name's Radek. Hope this was helpful. See you in chapter 9.